What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in on this lovely sunny weekend. Got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Denver Nuggets.
I can tell you're rushed right now.
I'm flustered. Trying to compose myself. He gave me 20 seconds. You have to at least give me a minute. We got to talk some Denver Nuggets. There was another injury since the last podcast, so got to talk about that. We also have to talk the emergence of Showtime. I'll tell you who that is later. And then we got to talk the Denver Broncos. We're going to do a mock draft today. Top 10. Am I doing one or are you doing one?
Well, it depends. Do you want Trevor Lawrence or do you want Zach Wilson?
Well, that's not a question for me.
No, do you want the Broncos pick or do you want everyone else?
I would like...
Do you want to make the Broncos pick when it comes up and then everyone gets mad at you?
I'm
That's more than happy to make the Broncos pick because I enjoy getting everyone mad.
Yeah, you make it. No, you don't get. No, hold on. You don't get to make it. I forgot. I apologize, everybody. We revoked his fan rights.
I
forgot. No, you're a Chiefs fan. You get to pick for the Chiefs now. So no wham. Yeah, wham for you is what it is. You don't get to choose the Broncos. You're not in a. So I will do the Broncos pick because you're a disgrace to Broncos country now. You're a traitor. Boopity. Yeah. Well, yeah, that. So we got to talk about that. Broncos, mock draft. We'll talk about all that. But we got to get updated on the Denver Nuggets situation because since the last podcast, there was an injury to this time Will Barton. And listen, let's just blame Brandon now.
No,
I mean,
no.
Can we just blame you?
Everyone to get hurt.
That's completely false.
You could win Crumble, and you know what?
It's fake narrative.
Goes down, Monte goes down, Will goes down, and guess what? I'm still gonna win Crumble. So your whole little jinx was all for nothing.
That's a fake narrative, and I don't know where you got it from, but I'm calling shenanigans. I've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. I don't know what you're lying about, but it's not true on this podcast. I did not wish for anybody to be injured.
Yes, you did.
That is fake news.
When I brought up Crumble, you wanted guys to get hurt.
Well, that's not true. When I said hurt, I mean like stub a toe.
Well, you didn't specify that, so
a little bit of they were getting like Jamal. Jamal's a hairy guy, by the way. Like, have you seen his chest? Like, his chest is hairy. All right. So I'm thinking like maybe he went to go get it waxed one day and a little too much, like they pulled it too hard, gave him a little scar up top. That's what I'm thinking as far as injuries. I didn't want a torn ACL and Will to hear a pop in his hamstring, for goodness sake. And then Monte to hurt his hamstring. When I saw Will go down in the Golden State game, and there's not much to take away from that Golden State game, so we just won't even go into it too deep. But I mean, we're a minute in.
They are not allowed to play Golden State ever again.
No. I don't like Golden State anymore. I hope that they get banished to the Chinese league, because what they're doing is like communist tactics. They're hurting people, is what they're doing out there. But no, he goes down the middle of the lane, and he makes a jump pass, and then immediately he's hopping around, and I'm like, oh boy. And then he goes down and he's grabbing his hamstring. I'm like, oh, why? Like at this point, like when Jamal went down, I kind of like put it in my mind, like, okay, don't get overly invested because now they'll still be a playoff team, but there's no like real chance of us doing anything special. When Will went down, I was just like, no, there's really no point to be invested at all. But I mean, the good thing is just a hamstring strain. So he's definitely probably going to miss the entire rest of the regular season. I was going through it last night. There's about 12 games left, I think. So I wouldn't expect him to play at all throughout the rest of the regular season. But man, the injury bug this year has just been awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it started at the end of last year, right? Like with, what was that? Gary Harris getting hurt. Will Barton also got hurt last year as well. Didn't Paul Millsap miss a lot of time last year too as well? Mm-hmm. So it started to kind of start last year, but it wasn't too crazy. Jamal was banged up here and there.
But it was guys. That was
right.
the main thing. It was,
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't too crazy. And then this year, it's like Jamal is hurt to start the beginning of the year. I didn't really think much of it, but apparently there was a lot there that kind of accumulated into something. Monte's dealt with 2 nagging hamstring things. PJ Dozier went down with a hamstring at one point. And then Will Barton, he gets his hamstring hurt, and I'm just like, these couldn't come at a worse time for the Nuggets. I mean, you're gearing up for the playoffs. You lose Jamal, that's already a kick to the Nard Dogs, and then you lose Will Barton, and it sucks. But I mean, the good thing is he'll most likely be back for the playoff run, which they'll need him for because.
But yeah, he'll be back physically. I just whenever he comes back from injuries, it just feels like he takes 100 steps back, as far as because he's playing well. He goes down, he comes back, and now he's going to be like, 5 points on 1 of 8 shooting for the rest of the season. And then it's going to take him half of next season to get going again. That's what it seems like with Will.
You're expecting him to catch his rhythm in the playoffs, which is not ideal.
It's not going to happen.
And depending on who you get, I mean, at this point, it could be the Lakers, but there is a small chance. There's a small chance that Dallas could hop them. They're only 1 loss back now. They have the tiebreaker over LA. So we may get Luka and Kristaps, who apparently hate each other off the court. Didn't know that.
That's still a bad matchup for the Nuggets. It's still a bad matchup.
That's still not ideal without Jamal.
Yeah.
So, but still, I mean, would you rather play the Mavericks or the Lakers? I'd rather play the Mavericks. But I mean, at this point,
here's the thing though: if you're going to lose no matter what in the first round, and I kind of said this last year or last playoff run, I think I would actually rather play the Lakers, and the only reason is because I want MPJ to play them when he's solely the number 2 guy, or even the number 1 guy, is the way last night was going. So I don't really care who they play. It's just not that big deal if they have to play the Lakers, because if they have to play the Lakers or Dallas, they're more than likely going to lose. I would rather MPJ get that experience against LeBron than against Luka.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, if I had to choose,
the number 1 focus for the Nuggets right now is getting MPJ up to speed to where Jamal and Nikola Jokic are, because it wasn't against Houston. It was against when did I tweet that out? Golden State? Was it against, or maybe? No, I gotta look at their schedule. It was against someone, but maybe it was against Portland. He struggled, or Memphis. He struggled late in both those games. He has these runs in the first quarter and the third quarter, but at the end of the half and at the end of games, he just shrinks. I mean, it's just, if it's a close game, he just doesn't. I mean, go back in those games. Who was it that was hitting big shots? Will and Jokic. And Porter was hiding. And every time he got the ball, I remember the one specifically, he got the ball off of a handoff from Jokic, had an wide open mid-range shot, was going to go up, but he didn't. He turned around and tried to get it back to Jokic, but I think Jokic thought he was going to shoot it. So Jokic was just like, well, I don't know what to do because you were supposed to shoot that. If that's Jamal steps back for a 3 and makes it more difficult, but he takes that shot. With MPJ, he just, late in games, he doesn't know. I don't think he knows when he should take a shot. Like, it's almost like, I think with Jamal and Jokic in their 2-man game late in games, I think it was kind of put in MPJ's brain of like, well, I'm not supposed to shoot late in games. This isn't my spot to make plays or to score. It's Jokic and Jamal's time to score. And so that kind of carried over with Will, and Will hit a big 3. I forget who that was against. Was that against Portland where he hit that 3?
Yeah.
So it kind of turned into more of Jokic and Will late in games. And so it just, MPJ needs to get comfortable late in games. And if he doesn't get comfortable, then they're not going to get anywhere this season at all, and they're going to get swept. Because right now, all you have to do is double Jokic. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's easy. Because
that's all you ever had to do.
Because in my mind, and any other team that's playing the Nuggets, MPJ is not clutch. MPJ is not willing to take that shot. So now we don't know if he's not because he's not doing it. But he needs to start. He needs to start getting those opportunities, and that might be on Malone too. Because, I think he almost, instead of transitioning MPJ into that second guy late in games, he transitioned Barton, which makes sense because Barton can handle the ball, and he's willing to take those shots, and we know that. So it makes sense. I'm not saying that Malone's stupid for doing that, but to benefit them long term, it needs to be Michael Porter. Because if you have three of those guys, you can't beat three of those guys. I mean, look back at the early that first year against Dallas with Miami. They didn't know how to close. They had closers, but they didn't know how to close. And LeBron wasn't quite there yet, but you really just had Dwayne Wade. Golden State before they got KD, yeah, you had Steph, but there's a reason why they lost in Game 7. They didn't have close. Like they didn't really have. Kyrie was a better closer. LeBron's a better closer than those guys were. So if you have two of them, great. You got Jamal and Jokic. But if you have three, it's going to be very difficult to beat the Nuggets with 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just he's young. Right. I mean, he's really in his. I mean, what is this? Technically his third season, but his second season playing,
and he hasn't gotten the opportunities. So yeah,
right.
I totally understand that. I'm just saying that he needs to. He needs more opportunities, and those close games, it was just a bummer for me because it was Will, and not him.
Well, I mean, now it's going to be him, and now he has no choice to step into that role. But we have to think too. I mean, MPJ's first two seasons playing as a pro regularly have not been normal years. No. Okay, one was stopped at the end because of a pandemic, and the other started way too soon, and it's a condensed season, and so it's a lot for him to handle. But I mean, when you look at it from a bird's eye view, right? Because we watch this team most every night, if not every night. And so we see him and his mistakes are magnified and everything like that. But if you look at it from a bird's eye view, he's playing really well.
He's playing great.
And he's validating why at one point he was considered to be a consensus number one pick. Mm-hmm. I mean, last night he goes for a career high. Okay, 39 points. He had 6 boards, 62% shooting from the field. In his last 7 games, he's had 39 and 6, 26 and 5, 17 and 5, 21 and 7, 21 and 5, 25 and 10, 24 and 9. I mean, you're looking at his game, and we know what he can do offensively. I mean, I retweeted a bunch of tweets this morning that just show him love from Nick Kosmider of The Athletic. Michael Porter Jr. has scored in double figures in each of his last 33 games. Yeah. Think about that.
The last time he didn't
games
was the Boston Celtics, where he played 24 minutes. He was 0 for 8 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3.
Right.
He had 0 points.
Think about that's almost half of a regular NBA season, okay? And his role is a specialist last year. Now he's a starter. But he's the third wheel for most of the season. But he's a specialist still. Mm-hmm. 33 games, this man has scored double figures dating back to February 17th. His numbers in that span, according to Nick Kosmider, again of The Athletic, 20.6 points, 8.4 rebounds, with a split of 57 from the field, 47 from 3, and 77 from the free throw line. Okay, since Murray went down, this is from Mike Singer of the Denver Post. Since Jamal Murray went down 6 games ago, MPJ is averaging 24.8 points, rounded up to 25 if you'd like, 58% shooting, including 55% from three. Okay? Like he is playing at an elite level. So while yes, there's still moments in every game with MPJ where it's like, oh my gosh, this is tough to watch. Like in the Golden State game, there was a few closeouts where I'm just like, dude, you can't stay in front of everybody. But then there's last night where he's chasing guys down like he's LeBron James in the finals. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, he's becoming a sneaky shot blocker, by the way.
Well, he had 3 blocks.
Right.
He had 2 against Golden State.
I'm just like, this guy, it's an experience, but he's so raw. Like it's crazy. He's so talented, but he's still so raw, and he's still a project. Yeah. And I'm just like, his Bambi performances are 25 points per game, 55% from the three, 58 from the field.
Out of his potential, like percentage-wise, he's maybe 20% through. Maybe.
I'd probably put him a little bit farther along than that. Maybe like 40 or 50.
No,
but
I don't think so. I don't think so. I because a lot of that whole 19% of that 20% in my mind is offense. 1% of that is defense. Like
okay, that's fair.
He's just starting. Like that 1% just happened maybe like a couple weeks ago. Like that's where, to me, that's where he's at. Where at the end, as long as he stays healthy and all that, if he does reach his full potential and gets up to that 100%, right now he's about 20 in my mind.
Well, he has the talent to be a top 10 player in the league, if not top 5.
Yeah.
And one thing that really gives me even more hope for him, because a lot of guys that are this talented, it's just about that. Like they're about themselves. Like they're self-indulgent. They're arrogant.
They're the only talented player on their team usually.
Right. Well, and like I saw a quote from Anthony Edwards today, and I get it, and it was probably tongue in cheek, but they asked him, why are the Timberwolves playing so much better in the fourth quarters now than you were early in the season? He's like, well, because I'm playing and I wasn't on the bench like I was earlier in the season.
True.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's funny. It's true, but I'm like, I just
say that, but it's true.
Well, yeah, but like you don't hear that stuff from MPJ. With MPJ, you hear what you kind of want to hear, like the politically correct answer, but I feel it's genuine in that he really feels like, yes, I'm great, but I have so much more to go. And we hear Malone harping on that, like he knows that MPJ knows that he can affect the game in other ways, whether it's rebounding or defense, that he has other levels he can reach. There was a quote last night, and I quote tweeted this morning because this is something that like I've been harping on. If you can think of everything I've said about MPJ, what's one of the things besides him not being able to catch? What's one part of his game I really want him to improve on? Can you remember?
I don't know. I would say blocking shots, but
so for me, it's always been ball handling. His ball handling has never been great. Yeah. He's too loose. Last night, they asked him about improving his game, and he said, I think going forward, one of the things I want to improve on is ball handling. And what did we talk about last week on the podcast about MPJ? Playmaking.
Get 2 assists a game.
He mentioned both of those things, and I was like, yes, he sees it.
That's great. That's great.
He knows. And I'm like, okay, that gives me hope because he knows his deficiencies. And I think part of that, too, is he didn't get a real offseason to work on that game and work on those things. To me, it reminds me of like when you're building a My Player in 2K and you up all your attributes for shooting and dunking and rebounding. His playmaking is completely notched down. His dribble handling, everything in that area is completely down. But eventually, I think it'll get there. Now, he doesn't have to be like Kyrie Irving and, dribbling and crossing up guys. No, but a tighter handle would be nice. Being able to see the court a little bit better would be nice.
Sees it, though? Because now with Jamal out, he needs to. Mm-hmm. If you would have asked him that 2 months ago, I don't think he says that. Maybe he does, but I don't think it's as high on that list. I think maybe 2 months ago he would have said defense, right? because that's what everyone talks about. But now that Jamal is out and he needs to be a bigger part of the offense, and I think he wants to run that 2-man game with Jokic. I mean, they try to do it. That perfect example is when I said against was it Golden State? No, it was against Portland, where he gets the dribble handoff from Jokic at the top of the 3-point line, top of the key, and he goes up like he's gonna shoot it, but 1 foot stays down and he changes his mind. He had an open shot. If that's in the second quarter, third quarter, he takes that shot. That's the first time I've ever seen MPJ have a wide open shot and not take it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2 minutes left in that game, not even. And that's why. But I think part of him is, well, I want to be able to run this 2-man game with Jokic, because if I can run that 2-man game with Jokic, there's no one that can stop them. You know, Jamal's 6'5". You can have good defenders on him and at least make it tough. But if you have a 7-foot Jokic and a 6'10" MPJ who can do that, you can't beat that. You can't stop that. That's like Jamal and Jokic is already nearly impossible to stop. That's literally MPJ and Jokic. If they can do that, that's impossible to stop. So I think that's part of the reason is, well, now that Jamal is out, they do need more guys that can go off the dribble and play make or score off the dribble. And that's one thing that we've seen these past 2 seasons with MPJ. He gets his shooting and the way he scores is either right at the rim off of a cut or a rebound or a wide open 3. And that's
or a contested 3.
Or a contested 3.
Those are his favorite kinds of 3s.
Those are the
he
only
refuses
shots.
to take anything less.
Those are the only shots he ever took. So now that he's a bigger part of the offense, yeah, he has to be able to score off the dribble. He has to be able to create his own shots. And this is why I said it sucks that Jamal's out. It really does. But this is a great thing for MPJ. And this is a great thing for the Nuggets. As long as Jamal comes back 100%, this is a great thing long-term for the Nuggets. Because if MPJ becomes what we think he can be while Jamal is out, and then Jamal comes back, they're a championship team right there. No more waiting. It's open.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the window, I mean, we talked about it a few podcasts ago when they were humming. I mean, I think the window's open. Like, there's a legitimate 2 or 3 years with Aaron Gordon here. 2 years for sure, because he's up after next year. But I just think there's so much to be optimistic about with Michael Porter. And speaking of, apparently there's a new nickname for him now that his teammates have given him, and it's called Showtime. They say when Mike is out there, we call him Showtime. And it makes sense. I mean, because he's a literal show. Every time you watch him, he does things on the court. He makes tough shots. And like, it's so mind-boggling to me that a guy can be this talented, but there's still so many areas of his game that he needs to get better at. Playmaking, ball handling, defense. He went into the post last night against, I don't know, one of the 8th, 9th, 10th players on the Rockets, and he just did not know what to do. And I was like, okay, you don't see a lot of 6'10" guys.
I think
not
I know
knowing
it was
what
at
to
the
do.
end of the game, right? In the 4th?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the ball was way out, and I'm like, oh my God, if someone doubles him, it's over. But he didn't know what to do. He still scored it, by the way, just because of just raw talent and being 6'10". But
he has no post game at all, though.
If he figures that out,
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. He's Kevin Durant, but he's bigger than Kevin Durant.
Not taller. I mean, he's
Not
like
taller, but he's bigger.
Girth-wise,
So
yeah.
If he works on that post game, he can be better in the post, because KD doesn't go in the post that often. He can do it.
I mean, he works in the post. I mean, he's not backing guys down, but he's taking the fadeaway jumpers.
What I'm saying is MPJ will be able to back guys down.
I mean, well, you should be able to, yeah.
So if he can figure out a post game, then yeah, that's something that, again, not stoppable. You can't.
Yeah, there's levels to his game. Like I'm hoping for him, like next offseason, it's ball handling and off the dribble stuff. taking guys off the dribble, because we don't see him do that a lot.
Right.
We don't see him take guys off the dribble
He's never
and
needed
go
to.
to the basket. Right. It's I think part of him, he just falls so in love with the jump shot.
Yeah.
Because he can hit it, and we know he can.
He's shooting 55%.
Like, when it swings to him, you just know when he's gonna shoot it. And I'm just like, the guy is. It's literally the same three every single time. He takes it from the same spot of the floor on both sides. It's that wing three, right, just hovering against the out of bounds. Like, he's a millimeter away, and the defender is literally in his airspace. And he rises up, and he had another quote from last night, and they're like, talking about his contested shots. He's like, I'm 6'10". I don't see anybody contesting my shot. I shoot over them. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense why you just shoot.
Yeah, it looks contested to us, but it's not contested to him.
I'm like, Mike, that is a bad shot. But he's like, I don't see them. And I'm like, well, that's fair. Okay, I guess that makes sense. But I've never been 6'10" before, so I wouldn't know. But like, he's got so many facets to his game. He's so fun to watch. There's still moments where he's very irritating.
Yeah.
And there's still moments where I think he lacks confidence. Like you mentioned earlier, he can, I think it was the Warriors game, he starts off with 17 points and then you don't hear from him. Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of it is when guys really crack down on him defensively, he loses his confidence a little bit. He gets in his own head. He thinks too much.
That's why I wouldn't mind having LeBron guard him. Because LeBron, now you don't have to put LeBron on Jamal.
No.
So I'm hoping that we get the Lakers, because I want LeBron to shut MPJ down. I want him to make MPJ's life hell in that first round. Because that's how he's gonna get better. That's the only way. And they need him to get better quickly. And so, yeah, we're gonna see these two LA games here pretty soon. I want Kawhi and LeBron to. I want MPJ to go 0 for 15 in those two games. I want him to see it. I want him to see it.
I mean, I want him to get humbled. I don't want him to look terrible.
Well,
you want him to be like, I want him to regret ever picking up a basketball.
Yes.
Choose a different sport. I just want him to play hard.
I want Kawhi, Paul George, and LeBron to make MPJ's life hell in those games.
Brandon would have a strange method of coaching if he were a coach. I want you all to be embarrassed, to cry, to not want to play anymore, because that's going to get the best out of you. I'm glad you weren't born in like the 1800s and leading, countries to war. I want all of your wives and children to be kidnapped and killed, because that's how I'm going to get the best out of you. Goodness, man. I just want him to be, have a little tough time guarding the guys, and you're like, I want him to fail miserably.
Yeah.
And retire early.
No, don't want him to retire early.
That's not what it sounds like.
I want them to.
I want him to go 0 of 15.
I want him to see it, because not necessarily want him to go, but he will go 0 and 15. Because if they go 1-on-1 with him, and they say, you know what, I'm shutting the MPJ down. I'm not going to let him do anything. He's going to go for 15. Because he's not ready. But that will show, well, he already knows it, but that will really tell him, okay, yeah, I should probably work on ball handling. I should probably work on playmaking. Because the next time I play those guys next year, I want to make sure that I can at least do something and not go 0 for 15.
Yeah. But he's been so fun to so fun to watch, and you can tell that his teammates know.
You know what's crazy? I just saw this. His PER. Guess where he's ranked in PER?
I'd say he's probably among the top, maybe like top 20.
Well, he's 29th. That's a lot higher than I thought he'd be. For someone who for most of the year was a third or fourth option, that's a high PER. Now, granted, that probably just went way up recently, but that's still really high.
And, I think we have to go back to, and you mentioned it a few times already, but I think you just have to, as a Nuggets fan, yes, this sucks that Jamal gets hurt, and you had a legitimate championship aspiration, even though it was small, but it was a legitimate one, at least to us, maybe not to anybody else. This sucks. But this is one of those things where, again, you can make lemonade out of the lemons that you were given. And this could be one of those things where you need to take a step back to take 3 steps forward, or to take a leap forward, like it's hopscotch. You know, if MPJ develops into what we all think he can be, even 80%. I mean, again, guy, like he's a specialist. His role as a specialist on this team.
Well, I don't
He's
think
putting up these
moving
numbers.
forward it'll ever be again.
No, well, yeah. Well,
But-
and I guess one thing I'm already concerned about is like, okay, if MPJ develops into this guy,
and then when
it's like Jamal comes back and it's like, okay, but then you know what makes me feel better about that is your best player
back in.
Well, right, but like your best player is like, you guys could score.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll just throw touchdowns. I mean,
Right.
those passes last night, the one he took after the free throw, and he throws it and it curves perfectly. It leads PJ, who's now become Nikola Jokic's new favorite wide receiver. It was Gary Harris, but now it's PJ Dozier.
By the way, this is a great opportunity for PJ Dozier with Will out. He looked great last night.
He did. And you talk about a guy
He's
who
really good.
consistency issues.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
like there's some nights where PJ shoots it and it's like you probably shouldn't shoot the basketball anymore. And then there's other nights like last night where he shoots it and you're like, okay, I feel confident. I feel confident in you.
The fact that he's been an 11th, 12th guy on this team just is mind blowing. Also, real quick before you move on, how weird is it watching Kenny Martin Jr. play? Because
yeah,
when Kmart came to Denver, like he was one of my favorite players, at least those first couple of years. It's just weird to be watching
his son
out there, and I'm like,
his son is a lot smaller than Kenyon.
Yeah,
because Kenyon was what 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah,
and Junior's probably like 6'4".
He's 6'6".
Is he?
Yeah, he's 6'6".
Wow, I thought he was smaller than that.
Every time he plays the Nuggets, he actually has a good game. But he had 18 and 4, 3 steals.
He can't really do much outside of take it to the basket and dunk.
Right, but if he develops a shot, he was 1 of 2 from 3. He was 3 for 8 from the free throw line. That's like his dad. But yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird for me. I think we're getting to that point where we're starting to see kids of some of our favorite players.
Well,
it's just making me feel really old.
I told you, I woke up this morning and my back hurt. So I know I'm old. I know I'm getting old. All right. Like that's my highlight of my Sunday was going to be going to Crumble to pick up the new ice cream flavors. And I got angry when they were closed. So I know I'm old. Okay. I don't need to see Kenyon Martin Jr. on the court to know that I am old. That only just, okay. Now that we're down this road, I have, at my job, we use Microsoft Teams to chat during the day. And like every now and then I'll help people that are born 2000 and up. And I type in the chat, I'm like, it is so weird seeing people's date of birth after 2000.
Yeah.
It just doesn't compute in my brain. And I'm like, how do you exist? I just don't understand it. It just baffles me every time I see it. I just don't understand it. It makes me uncomfortable, honestly, and I don't like it. So, yeah. Apparently, according to like my brain, birthdays stopped at the year of 1999.
Yeah.
And that's it. But it didn't happen. So, like, imagine there's going to be kids born past 2010 coming into the league here soon. Like, that's just weird. I don't like it.
I mean, LeBron's son is going to be in the league here in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. If he doesn't decide to just invest his time into fully gaming. Why?
I mean,
he's already with a gaming team.
He could make just as much money, so.
Well, yeah, well, LeBron's on par to be a billionaire at the end of this season. So, yeah. I mean, does he really even need to 82-game grind?
Yeah.
Take a toll on my physical health? Play video games and not have it take a toll on my physical health? Well, in the way that basketball would. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. MPJ has been special. He's been fun to watch. But they're really going to need him to be even better. Because the stretch coming up, I saw Matt Moore dub it as the hell stretch for the Denver Nuggets. And it starts with the Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow. I swear every game against the Grizzlies is just, it's never, like, we can never blow them out. It's never pretty. it always has to go down to the wire. It always has to be ugly
Well, the
and
Grizzlies are a
grimy.
good team too, though.
Well, yes, they
well.
are.
They're playing well.
They're a competitive team, yes. But it's just like, I just hate. John Moran is really good. He's like the fast version of Zion. He just runs straight to the basket and he makes it every time. That's about it. It's about all he can do. Occasional three every now and then. But it starts with Memphis. And then the next night you get Zion, who I just told you the stat before the show, that if Zion misses his next 216 shots, that's 216. There's no decimals in there except for after the 6. He'd still be shooting over 50%. He's a bowling ball that just takes it to the hoop every time. So good luck with that. So you got Memphis.
Wrong about him.
Right. Well, you were wrong. All right. You said he was going to be a bust. I thought he would be transcendent.
No.
Just like,
you are.
Okay, listen.
You are a.
I didn't think he would
liar.
suck. I didn't think he would suck. I just didn't think he'd be transcendent like everybody thinks.
Yeah.
Now, I'm willing to move off of that a little bit.
I thought he'd be an all-star type of player, but never a top 5 player. That's what I thought. I thought he could reach top 10, like 9, 10. Just being, a good post player that can occasionally hit a 3 at 6'6". I didn't think he would bully guys who are 7 foot 280 out there, but he is.
Yeah, he's a literal definition of a bowling ball. So, but yes, so now you got Memphis, then New Orleans, then you get a break for Toronto. But again, Toronto beat the Nuggets face in.
I was just gonna say you just lost
like a month ago. So, so you have that game literally a month ago, a month and a day, and then you have at Clippers.
By the way, that's the second of a back-to-back that Toronto game.
So that's probably gonna be a loss. But then you go to the Clippers, then you have the Lakers, then you have the Knicks, who are a playoff team, even though you beat them earlier in the year.
They're playing great.
They've got an 8 or 9 game winning streak.
If the Lakers would have just waited on their thing, they had Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Julius Randle on that team.
And they chose Kyle Kuzma.
And they chose Kyle Kuzma. But here's the thing, though. They let Randle just walk. They didn't even trade Julius Randle. They just let him walk.
Right.
The Lakers.
I mean, to be fair, though, it's been like 3 years since he's played there.
Sure,
so,
but
I mean, they would have had to waited a long time.
Well, but the Nuggets had to wait how many years for Jamal?
Sure, but I think
how many years did it take for Jokic to get to his point? So
right.
Just be patient, and I get it. You're LA, you're the Lakers. You can't do that.
That's what it's LA.
But man, they had Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Julius Randle. What are you doing? So it's just all you have to do is keep those guys, sign LeBron. You didn't. I mean, look, you got AD, great. You won a championship. It all worked out. But I'm just saying, what if it didn't?
Yeah, I mean that could have been a team that competed for years because that's 2 All-Stars in Ingram and Julius Randle. Lonzo, even though I don't think New Orleans is really using him to his full potential, they've kind of relegated him to like a stand on the side and shoot threes, which I think that's not him. I mean, he can do it, but that's not using him to his full potential and letting him maximize his talents. But yeah, I mean they had a solid team. But you got the Lakers, then the Knicks. Then it's at Utah. Then it's Brooklyn.
Well, Brooklyn might be easy.
Well, yeah. I mean, no game is easy for the Nuggets.
I hope they lose in the first round. If the Nets win a championship this year, that's the worst thing possible for the league. Because now you're gonna start to see a lot of superstars sit out. Because all the Nets did it.
Well, speaking of sitting out too, you know who sat out yesterday?
Kawhi? I don't know.
Joel Embiid.
Oh, did
so he missed another game. He sat out yesterday. They rested him. So he misses 19 games now. The Nuggets now have the same record as the Philadelphia 76ers. So, and it's funny because I saw a guy Philly fan tweet the other day. I quote tweeted it and I was like, are they all this angry? But he was like, the Nuggets almost dropped to the 5th seed. And the Sixers are first, and you look at the record, and at that point the Nuggets were 2 games back. Yeah. Now they have the same record as the Sixers, and Joel Embiid missing another game.
Jokic will win it. I think it's over. And
I don't know.
and here's the thing. Yeah, the media is pushing all these other guys, but that's because they have nothing else to do. Um, when like there was that, they got all writers and 90% of them or whatever picked Jokic as whatever the first place or whatever it was. It's when it comes out, when it happens, it won't be unanimous, but it won't be 50-50 either. It'll probably be like 60% Jokic, 30% Embiid, and then split the rest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and now that we're here, I kind of just want to go down this. But yes, the Nuggets have a hell stretch coming up, so that's going to be difficult.
But they end the season with Charlotte, Minnesota, Detroit, and then Portland.
And then Portland. But that's a tough stretch still, though. So I mean, we could see them if they're going to lose ground. It's in this stretch right here. Yeah. But do you follow StatMuse on Twitter?
I might. I don't know.
They tweet out like the NBA stats and everything like that. Like they went from the top rope.
But I don't know if I follow them or not.
They're the ones that post like the cartoon pictures with their stats. Anyways, they tweeted out earlier because there's this like trend going on Twitter to where it's like it's a bracket. I don't know how to explain it, but anyways, what says, oh, he averages, and this is Nikola Jokic they're speaking of, he averages more assists per game than Embiid. That's it. And then it goes on to say, no, he actually averages more three-pointers, steals per game, has a better assist to turnover ratio, field goal percentage is better, 3-point percentage is better, free throw percentage is better, field goal percentage is better, the efficiency field goal stat. TS, what is TS? True shooting percentage is better. Offensive rating is better. PER is better. Win shares is better. VORP is better. So you get the whole thing. And here we go. Defensive rating, DBPM, which is defense, is better than Embiid. Would you look at that? Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. All at a lower usage rate than Embiid, by the way. So, and their teams now have the exact same record. So one, I was like,
averages more points. I mean, sure, but Jokic also has.
You look at that.
He's also averaging 8 assists. So like.
Right, but you look at it. If you go to Pro Basketball Reference right now, okay, and you compare the two, Embiid is at 30 points per game. Jokic is at 26.2. So yes, well that's a decent mark. I mean, it's 3.8 points right there. So that's decent margin. But then you look at everything else. Oh well, Embiid's better at defense, right? He's at 1.4 blocks per game. Jokic is at 0.7. So not huge there. Oh, better at defense. Embiid 1 steal a game. Jokic 1.4 steal a game. Oh well, the rebounding. Okay, well Embiid's at 11.1 and Jokic is at 10.9. And then Jokic, of course, we know is leading by a significant margin in assists. So it's like, again, this is not to crap on Joel Embiid because he's a really, really good player. He's arguably the second. You can make the argument he's the best big man in the game. We disagree. But Jokic is he just impacts the game in so many other ways. And the analytics show it. The eye test shows it. Like, and people who just rely on defense, it's so funny to me because Jokic has improved, but nobody wants to acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. And at this point, if you just deny Jokic is the better player, then you're either a Sixers fan or you just don't watch Jokic enough. Because he's that great. Like the analytics love him. The eye test shows how great he is. And now he's down to one, his second best player, another starting player. His other best player now is a 22-year-old kid who's in his third season, his second true season playing. And then Aaron Gordon, who came over in a trade. So he's doing all this in the West with the same record as Embiid, and he hasn't missed games. And everybody's like, oh, well, the missed games shouldn't matter. It's funny now that, now how many games a guy misses shouldn't matter. But I guarantee you if the argument was flipped and Jokic had Embiid's stats and missed as many games, he wouldn't even be in the conversation. I guarantee he wouldn't be in the conversation.
Here's another thing. So while you were talking there, I was like, I wonder how many shots Embiid and Jokic take per game, right? Because Embiid, because I was gonna say, well, if Jokic took as many shots as Embiid, he'd probably be averaging just as many points, right? Because he has 8 assists. So I looked at it. Well, they're both averaging 18.4 field goal attempts a game, the same exact 18.4. And I'm like, what? How the hell is Embiid averaging more points per game? Because Jokic is shooting 57% from the field, and Embiid is shooting 51%. Embiid is shooting 37% from three, Jokic shooting 40%. So I was like, how this makes no sense mathematically, right? Makes no sense.
Wonder how he's getting more points.
So I looked at free throw attempts. So Jokic is getting. Jokic is getting. Hold on, let me pull it up. Is it either 4 or 5?
It's pro basketball has it as 5 attempts a game.
Okay, well, so yeah, Basketball Reference says 4.3. 4.3 free throw attempts per game for Jokic. You know how many Embiid shoots per game?
Double that.
He shoots 12, more than double.
Yeah.
So if Jokic got 12, let's say if Jokic got 10 free throws a game, that's 6 more, right? If he's shooting 85% from the free throw line, out of 6, he's probably making 4 or 5. So that's just as many points as Embiid with the 8 assists a game. So it's not if Jokic got the free throw attempts that Embiid did, and it's not like Jokic plays outside behind the 3-point line all the time. They shoot the same amount of threes per game. So it's the free throws. That's why Embiid averages 30 points a game. It's literally that's it, the free throws.
Yeah. Nikola Jokic just doesn't get a whistle. And again, I hate to be the guy that like harps on the refs and always blames the ref, but like it's legitimately true. Like he just doesn't get a whistle. Like among like all the great players in the league, Jokic is like at the bottom. Like there's like role players on other teams that get more free throw attempts than Jokic. And I don't get it. I don't know if it's because he's big, so they think that he doesn't get fouled, so it's like the Shaq LeBron effect.
Well, no,
if it's because
Embiid is big too. And people argue, well, Jokic plays out on the outside more often. Maybe a little, but that's more because he's facilitating. But he goes into the post. There's a lot of times where he gets fouled and he doesn't get the call. So, yeah, you could say, well, he's not playing inside as much as Embiid, and that's probably true. But that big of a difference, if it was 11-8, okay, I could see that argument. But it's 11-4, nearly 12-4. So I don't. Yeah, that argument you can put in there a little bit, but Jokic is out there getting fouled. I mean, we watch the games. He's getting calls, and then I watched a Philly game the other day, and Embiid gets pushed barely, and he gets called. So it's very unfair with the whistles.
Well, and again, and I think it was Brad Stevens that said it earlier this year, that he was shocked with how much Jokic brings the ball up for his offense. And to me, like for people that want to make that argument, well, he's out on the perimeter more. Well, yeah, because you know what Jokic is like? Jokic is like a single mom. He has to not only work, but he has to cook his kids dinner. He has to take them to school. He has to bathe them. He has to entertain them. All the while making sure he looks pretty and does his job. You know what Embiid is? He's in a happy, healthy marriage to where he just goes to work and comes home and he has a wife in Ben Simmons who can worry about dinner and cleaning. Jokic doesn't have that. Okay? He doesn't. So I'm sorry that he's a little bit tired from time to time. Because he has to do so much around his house. Got a little bit carried away there. But yes, I think that's more valuable. That our center has to initiate the offense.
Yeah, that shouldn't hurt Jokic's case.
No. Wouldn't that make one more valuable? Because he has to bring the ball up. Because God forbid if sometimes he gives it to Will Barton, we don't know what can happen with the ball. Okay? Will could dribble it off of his legs sometimes and it goes out of bounds. All right, MPJ is Bambi. We've already established that his handles are so loose, I could rip him.
When he doesn't catch half the passes from you.
Exactly. He has fins like a sea lion for hands. He has no opposable thumbs. That's what it is. They're slippery. The ball just goes through his hands. So yes, he has to bring the ball up. And then once he passes it, Okay, give me a screen so I can go down I-25, cut back through the trees, and now I'm on the opposite block. Please throw it to me. Okay, you can't throw it to me because we don't know how to throw an entry pass, and the ball gets turned over or it's tipped, and then it's a turnover going the other way. So yes, I'm sorry that he has to make sure his family is stable and everything's going well. That's the new argument. Jokic is a single mother. And Embiid
Jokic
is in a happy
playing
marriage.
against the West, and Embiid is playing against the East.
Exactly. So listen, I don't want to crap on Embiid because Sixers fans literally just hate Jokic. Like they just spew hate. They just don't like him.
Embiid. I like watching Embiid.
Right, he's a great player.
He's really good.
But Sixers fans, I think part of that anger is that they know that their guy isn't as valuable. Yeah. We've never disputed on this podcast that Embiid is the more physically gifted player of the two. He's more athletic. He's more athletic. He's a little bit bigger than Jokic. He's probably a little bit heftier. Okay, we get that. Jokic is more skilled than Embiid. He impacts the game in other ways. I don't hate Embiid, but Sixer fan, they hate Jokic. They absolutely loathe him.
Well, welcome to Philly.
Right. It's funny now how many comparisons you hear of like Jokic is like Larry Bird. Like Popovich compared him to Larry Bird a few years back, and people are like, oh, that's crazy. But then like now when I listen to national broadcasts, I hear more of that as like he's the modern day Larry Bird in a center's body. Mm-hmm. And if this is how Larry Bird was, like I know Larry Bird was obviously a Hall of Famer, like one of the best of all time, but we didn't get to watch him right in his heyday. And we could YouTube it, but like if this is what like Bird was like, oh my gosh, like this guy is unreal. Like Jokic does things each game that are just unreal, but then you get used to him because it's like, well, he does that every night. Those are simple things. So that's, I don't know. I rest my case. I hope he gets it. I'm not holding my hat on it because just one more thing to be disappointed about. But yes, that's the new. I want someone on national TV to take my reference. Okay, this is what it's like. Jokic is the single mother. All right, and Embiid is in a happy marriage. He doesn't have to take care of the kids. He goes on business trips all the time, just resting while his wife is slaving away at home. Lord knows what he does on those business trips. All right. Do you have anything else to say about the Nuggets? Or should we move on?
I think we should probably move on for your sake.
Yeah, I'm getting angry. I'm more angry because I can't have crumble ice cream today. Mad. Just mad. Shout out to all the single mothers out there. Hopefully that raises our demographic for you. Okay. We're Behind the Glass Sports Podcast, #1 among single mothers. Here's why. So we understand your gripe and your pain. All right. The NFL draft is coming up in what? 4 days? 5 days? How many days? How many days is Thursday away? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days. 4 days. It's coming up. All right. And the Denver Broncos are sitting at 9. So there's still some options. We know that they want to trade up, or they're willing to trade back. Really, they're willing to do anything at this point. They're doing really everything and anything besides sticking with Drew Lock if they don't have to. So it's going to be fun. I mean, there's a lot of rumors.
This is the most excited I've ever been for a draft. Not just
Really?
because of where the Broncos are at, but just the way this thing could go. It could go so many different ways. There's a chance that there's a offensive player drafted 1 through 10. That's crazy. I mean, it could go quarterback, receiver, tight end, receiver, offensive line. Like, that's incredible. Like, there's so many weapons out there. Like, I wish I'm really upset that I wish Drew Lock would have had a great season last year. I wish Drew Lock was the guy, because you know why? I'd be pounding the table for Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. I don't care that we have Sutton and Jerry Jeudy out there still, or 2, and Noah Fant. Let's add more. Like, Kyle Pitts is a 6'6", 250 who can run a 4.4. He's LeBron out there. Jamar Chase is, 6'1", that can make every catch, help Joe Burrow get 60 touchdown passes. These guys, Jalen Waddle is the fastest player or Devontae Smith too. The speed guys. I mean, this is a ridiculous draft. I am so upset that Drew Lock had a rough year last year. I wish he would have had a year like Justin Herbert or even Baker, something, because then we wouldn't be thinking, maybe we should move up and get Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Because there's Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts. Hey, if you want an offensive lineman too, there's Penny Sewell, there's Rashawn Slater. There's so many other offensive weapons that you could have gotten. But now, we should probably look at quarterback because that's the most important thing. And these 4 quarterbacks, by the way, would probably be the number 1 pick in any other draft. All 4 of them. They're all that good. And really, everyone's just picking them apart. That's really it, because all 4 of these guys have the ability to be top 10 quarterbacks in the league. But it depends on where they go, what weapons they get. That's really it, right? If you have, all 4 of these guys have the talent. They all have the ability to be top 10 guys. But are you going to go to a horrible situation in New York? Are you going to go to a great situation in San Fran? Or even, I would argue, Denver is a great situation too, because you got the weapons there. Maybe not the coach, but you got the weapons. A bad situation where you don't have a lot of weapons in Jacksonville, but it's looking up. We'll see. It depends. It depends on where these guys go. But all four quarterbacks have the potential to be top 10 guys. They have the ability to be top 10 guys. Now it's on them to put it together, and it's on the team to help them put it together.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, shall we get to our mock draft?
Yeah.
Or do you have anything else you want
do you want the Broncos pick, or do you want?
Yeah. You don't get to choose for the Broncos. You defected. All right. You're Benedict Arnold. You're now with the Redcoats. Okay. So you're a traitor. That's it. You don't get to root for them anymore.
You get the number 1 overall pick, the easiest pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and pick Kyle Pitts.
Right. I'm picking who the Broncos should be picking on Thursday. All right.
Well, with the number 1 pick, the Jaguars are taking
Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. Let me tell you something about Trevor, Todd. Amazing hair, nice arm. It's my breakdown. No, there's just no way that they don't go Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's the slam dunk consensus.
If you're Jacksonville and someone comes to you and says, "We'll give you 6 first-round picks," do you do it?
No.
7?
No.
8?
No.
9? 10?
No.
20?
No. Maybe though, but no.
You get 20 first-round picks.
No.
You get a first-round pick
because that doesn't mean anything. I mean, yes, it means something, but when you can get a quarterback that could potentially be generational, you don't pass that up for the opportunity. This is a franchise that has been in the friggin' basement since its existence.
What if the Jets offered you 10 first-round picks?
The only way, well, maybe, but the only way that I would trade out of that if I were Jacksonville is if it was like Seattle calling saying, we'll give you Russell Wilson and 3 first-round picks. Okay.
But do you really want Russell Wilson? Here's the thing.
Here we go again.
No,
don't you start with this again.
I'm
buying into your trading Hall of Famers, and now you're like, Russell Wilson, are you sure?
Well, here's the thing. Now you take on a $40 million cap.
Yeah, but then you have an MVP quarterback.
Yeah, but isn't Trevor Lawrence capable of doing that?
Well, I don't know. I know one guy's gonna be a Hall of Famer. I don't know what Trevor Lawrence could be. I know he's got the prospects of being that. But that doesn't mean he'll turn into that.
But he's cheap for 5 years.
Sure.
You can build around him, and you get him for 15 to 20. You get Russ for.
Or I could
5
bring
to
a
7?
guy in like Russ, who that's a quarterback that players would want to come in and take less to play with to win.
Okay.
So listen, I'm for established Hall of Famers.
And says,
You're for unproven.
If Seattle comes to you and says, we'll give you Russell Wilson and 2 firsts and a second.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm getting a Hall of Fame quarterback still in his prime, and I'm getting 2 firsts. Whereas, if I'm getting 58 first-round picks from whoever,
is your team ready?
Well, no. I mean, they won't be ready with Trevor Lawrence either.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But Trevor Lawrence gives you the ability to have a 3-4 years to where you can get ready. Whereas where you have Russ, it's harder to get ready because you're spending $40 million on him already.
What's to say Russ isn't like, I'll take a restructured contract?
Nah, he won't do that.
How do you know?
Sure, if he does, great. If he pulls a Tom Brady, great. But
I'm just saying.
But it doesn't. But he's not doing that for Seattle. Why isn't he doing that for Seattle? If
they'd ask nicely.
If he wants help so badly and he's complaining that the offensive line isn't very good, well, why don't you take $10 million off your contract and give it to them and go get an offensive lineman?
Because his family has to eat too, Brandon.
Oh, yeah. And, $30 million to $40 million, that's a huge difference, right? I'm sure they're going to miss their $200 steaks every freaking night.
I just think I'd rather have a proven Hall of Famer for 5 to 7 years than Trevor Lawrence, who, while he has the prospects to be a potential Hall of Famer, at least that's what his hype is, you still don't know. Injuries, I don't know if the guy gets into like drugs at some point in his career and completely falls off.
What if he gets hurt?
Sure. But I'm willing to take that risk with with a proven Hall of Fame guy than an unproven guy. Because at the end of the day, still, at least if I get Russ, then I have that building block, the most important building block already in place.
Sure, but Trevor Lawrence can be that too.
Maybe. He could be, but he could not be as well. So,
all right.
Russ is that. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence, though.
Okay.
And I'm declining your offer of 78 first-round picks. Now, see, here's where you messed up. You offered picks. If you would have offered me Crumble, sold.
Yeah, 20-year supply of Crumble.
Selling the team. Take the team, too. You want my pick? Take the team as well. Take it. You can have 2 teams now. Ups your chance of winning a Super Bowl. Boom. All right, who are the Jets taking?
The Jets. Here's the thing with the Jets. Look, I like Zach Wilson a lot, but I also really like Justin Fields. I also really like Trey Lance. I'm not really sure what happened, like when it happened to where all of a sudden Zach Wilson was the easy number 2 overall pick. Like, to me, yeah, he's second, maybe even 1, but Justin Fields is really, like, I wouldn't be upset if I got Justin Fields instead of Zach Wilson or Trey Lance instead of Zach Wilson. It's just this is the second easiest pick, or 1A, 1B as far as easiest picks. It will be Zach Wilson. I think the Jets have already said it's gonna be Zach Wilson. I don't know if they gave Zach Wilson the playbook yet, like Jacksonville already gave Trevor Lawrence the playbook, but it'll be Zach Wilson.
Poor man's Drew Lock.
Here's the thing. The draft starts here because whatever San Fran decides to do is going to affect whatever happens between 4 and 9 specifically, or maybe even 4 and 15 with New England. Because if they take Mac Jones, it's going to get interesting. If they take Justin Fields or Trey Lance, I don't know. But this is where the draft starts.
I mean, it could start there, but I think it'll start at 4 with Atlanta. But okay, so we have Trevor Lawrence going 1. 2 is Zach Wilson. 3, San Fran, who traded up with Miami. So now, I mean, obviously they're going here for a quarterback. It's just which one. A lot of people feel it might be Mac Jones. Then there's some that think that maybe a smokescreen, so they could get a guy like Trey Lance.
But why do you need to put out a smokescreen when you already know the first and second pick?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not a GM.
Just saying.
But I just don't think it'll be Mac Jones. I don't like. I get he's the more established like the pro ready quarterback. He ran a pro system and he's ready for it. I just don't buy that. Plus, I don't know. In today's game, it's moving away from pocket passer completely. Now, I still think you do need to be able to throw the ball effectively from the pocket.
Well, Mac
can't
Jones ran the same 40 that Trevor Lawrence did.
That's because Trevor Lawrence's hair resistance that was holding him back. Now, if he would have shaved it, he would have ran like a 4.3. But the hair, the lock, the way. See, if you knew how geometry and physics worked, you would know that the curls are holding back his condensation and photosynthesis.
Well, then if I'm drafting him, he better shave his damn head.
Well, the helmet will be on there, so the wind will just right past his head. So it's not going to go through the curl way down his body. This is simple physics. I'm doing the podcast with a dummy.
Bibbidi bop boopity.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. If you would just learn simple geometry calculus, then you'd know.
I don't think that's geometry, but okay.
Pretty sure it's what that is. The one about shapes and numbers, triangles. Anyways, I don't buy that it'll be Mac Jones at 3. I'm going to go Trey Lance here. I think they keep Jimmy Garoppolo. It lets Trey Lance sit for a year. He's the one prospect that people are like super high on, that if you just fine tune him a little bit, he could be something really special. I think it's Trey Lance here. They've already said that they're not moving off of Jimmy G. So I think they keep him in place for a year and then boom.
Okay.
Let him go.
All right. Who's at 4 here? I don't have it.
Atlanta's at 4.
Atlanta. All right. Atlanta's in a weird situation. With the 4th pick, the Atlanta Falcons take Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the best non-quarterback player in this draft. They could take quarterback. The only reason why I'm having them not take quarterback is just because if you take Justin Fields here, right? The problem is the second Matt Ryan throws a pick, what are the fans going to do? And you can't get out of it, right? You're stuck with him for 2 years. You might be able to get out of it next offseason. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, a lot of money. It's a tricky situation. I think you gamble here. And here's the thing. Atlanta had Matt Ryan's not a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. So you roll with him and you get him another weapon and you try and win. And the rest of your draft, you draft defense. But you're at pick 4. I would say you either take Kyle Pitts, the best non-quarterback in this draft, or you move down and you go for a Micah Parsons or a Caleb Farley or a J.C. Horn, one of those defensive players, because you need defensive help. That's where they really need help. But because we're not doing trades here, I think you have to take Kyle Pitts. You can't take Micah Parsons here. It's way too high. So quarterback would make things messy. Kyle Pitts makes the most sense. You already have Ridley and Julio Jones. If you grab another receiver, they're going to be 3rd. How much is he really going to, get targets? Kyle Pitts opens up the whole field for you. And remember what Matt Ryan did when he had Tony Gonzalez? He was great. So go get yourself a tight end who also is a 6'6", 4'4" tight end or wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, and people don't realize it too, but because Atlanta had kind of a down year, they weren't really a good football team. Their offense was like top 5 all year, top 3
so
all year.
Go get another. That's why it makes more sense to me that I think they trade down, so that way they can go out and get a Micah Parsons, or a corner. But
I mean, if you add that guy to an already top 3 offense,
right. Do you want to pass up on a guy who everyone's saying is the best non-quarterback player, who's the best tight end to come out in however many years, who also can play wide receiver? He's too fast for linebackers, too big for safeties and corners. How the hell do you cover him? You can't.
Right. And we got to think too,
him because you got Julio and Ridley on the other sides.
Right. Well, and you got to think too. I mean, Julio, even though he's still great, I mean, these last few years, he's had some injury issues.
Mhm.
He's getting up there in age, so we
Right.
don't know how long he'll be at his level. Theoretically, that's a guy who can slide right in. Now, granted, they have Calvin Ridley, but that's a guy you can slide right in, for when that time comes. And then you have another weapon there. You still have a great wide receiver in Calvin Ridley. You have a tight end who's considered to be this great player as well.
Mhm.
And then when you get to the point where you have to draft a quarterback, now you're really already set up because now you have an established Kyle Pitts of 2-3 years and Calvin Ridley if he stays. So I mean, it's hard to pass up.
It is.
So
It's very hard to pass up. And like I said a couple podcasts ago, I think there's two guys that are as close to guarantees as it gets in this draft. I'm not saying they are guarantees because you can't say that, but they are as close to guarantee Hall of Famers as it gets. And that's Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Armpits.
All right. 5 is Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. This is an interesting one because, I've seen a lot of people say, well, they could go wide receiver here. But I think this is kind of a no-brainer. They took T. Higgins last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Would Jamar Chase be good for that? Yeah. But, I mean, you still have A.J. Green is still there, right?
Burrow his receiver, though.
Right. But, I mean, you got to protect that guy. Yeah. And he was running for his life last year. You got to get yourself one of these tackles.
Yeah, he's no Kyler Murray. You can't get away from this guy.
Right. I think Sewell's probably the best choice here, even though there's like some character stuff that's been floating around about Sewell the past few weeks. I think this is probably where you go, protect his blind side, and kind of stabilize that offensive line. So I'm going to go Penei Sewell here.
Yeah, and it's a deep receiver class, so go grab a receiver in the second, third round. You don't need Jamar Chase. You need Sewell or Slater, whatever one you go with. But yeah, I think that's probably honestly the third easiest pick. Is they're going to take an offensive tackle. Well, at least they should. All right, pick 6, the Miami Dolphins. I'm sure the Dolphins are really upset that Atlanta took Kyle Pitts, because that's probably who they wanted. They shouldn't have traded down then. So with pick 6, the Dolphins will take Jamar Chase. He's the next best offensive threat other than Kyle Pitts. Even though he didn't play last year, I think we all kind of saw he was going to be the top receiver in this class no matter what. Jalen Waddle is really good. Devontae Smith is really good. But Jamar Chase with Tua, who I think you have to say, okay, we're going to go all in with Tua. You go get him a weapon. I just think it makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, pair him with a guy like Devontae Parker. Mm-hmm. Allow them to kind of stretch the defense a little bit more. Gives him another weapon. They're buying into Tua. Yep. This could have been the chance that they could have moved on, but they're buying in. So hopefully it works out for them. All right, so at 7 is the Detroit Lions. This is an interesting one. The Lions are just one of those teams where they just need help everywhere. It just feels like every year they just need good players. The last time they were like really good was 15 when they had that good defense, and I think they made it to the playoffs. And then that PI in the playoff game against Dallas kind of screwed them. I see a mock that has Jalen Waddle going there. I saw another one that had Micah Parsons going there. So it kind of just tells you where the analysts think that they're at. I mean, I'm trying to think of who Detroit has offensively. I mean, Kenny Golladay is a pretty solid wide receiver. I think
Galladay's in New York now with the Giants.
Oh, is he? Yeah, did he leave in free agency? Yep. Okay, and then is Marvin Jones still there?
I believe so.
I think he's there. So it probably makes sense for them, honestly, to go wide receiver, give Jared Goff another weapon. They drafted the tight end last year or a couple years ago, Hawkinson, right? From Iowa, the same year that the Broncos got Fant. So maybe you get a wide receiver to pair with him to make things a little bit easier on Goff. So I think they probably go, I think the Jalen Waddle, either Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. I'll probably go Waddle here. That guy's only 5'10", though. Eesh.
Yeah, well, Devontae Smith is like 160.
Yeah. He's like 6'1", 160, but Jalen Waddle's, they have him listed on here, 5'10", 182. Eesh. But yeah, I'm going to have them go Jalen Waddle here.
Okay. The monk I'm looking at has trades. So who's that pick 8?
Carolina.
All right. Yep. Carolina is an interesting one. Obviously, well, it would have been quarterback, but they went out and got Sam Darnold. You're not going to take a quarterback just because, well, that'd just be a disaster. The second Sam Darnold throws a pick, you're going to be yelling for whoever you take. So, with the 8th pick, the Carolina Panthers take. Man, I'm gonna have them. I'm gonna have them take Micah Parsons. I think you need to help that. I would have taken Waddle here. I'm not gonna take Devontae Smith here. I think he's a little too small. Not real. I'm just concerned about injuries. I don't really see you can go out and get a receiver later on in the draft. I'm going to take the best defensive player in the draft and get this defense going again. You do need a weapon, but I'll wait till the second round to take a receiver. So I'll go Micah Parsons here to Carolina.
Yeah, and this kind of helps them fill that void that kind of Luke Kuechly left when he retired. Thomas Davis, those guys, gives them a linebacker who, I mean, maybe he plays in the middle, maybe not, but I mean, kind of gives them a presence there to kind of hold and stabilize that down for them. So now we get to 9 with the Denver Broncos. And we've got, 3 quarterbacks off the board now?
Yep.
So Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance was taken, still have Mac Jones, still have Justin Fields. Listen, I think if the Broncos stay at 9, and either Trey Lance or Justin Fields falls to them, that's a no-brainer. It's just a matter of which one do you like. If both of those guys, this wouldn't happen. But if both of those guys fell, then okay.
It could happen.
Maybe, but I highly doubt it. If
San Fran takes Mac Jones, it could happen.
I just don't think. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
Here's the thing.
That makes it really tough for Atlanta, though.
I don't think either of them fall to 9 just because I think there's trades. I think Atlanta could move down. I think who's at 7 again? Detroit.
Detroit.
I think Detroit could move down. I think Carolina could move down. So teams like New England, who's at 15, even the Bears, who's at 20, we've seen. We saw the Chiefs move up from 27 to 10. So why can't the Bears move from 20 to 8, right, to get ahead of the Broncos? So I don't think they drop to 9 just because I think New England and Chicago are a little bit more aggressive, or someone else to move up into the top 10 and try and get above Denver. So Denver might have to trade up as well. But if they do drop at 9, how do you not pass them up?
Yeah. If they stay at 9 and somehow a quarterback like this, either Fields or Lance drops to them,
and Micah Parsons is gone,
no-brainer.
which is your biggest need on defense.
Yeah. I think in this scenario that we're doing with Justin Fields still there, if he's on the board, the Broncos would take him. So with the 9th pick, I have the Denver Broncos taking Justin Fields, effectively ending the Drew Lock era. And there you go.
Drew Lock, or do you trade him?
Well, I don't think you have any reason not to keep him. I mean, who's your backup going to be? It's at least a guy who's got a year under this system already. I think he could be
you don't start Drew Lock initially just to help Justin Fields get going?
See, I don't like that. I don't like the whole, and I think there is something to be learned from watching. But again, you learn best when you're out there going through it. So I think if Justin Fields is capable, put him out there. Mm-hmm. So I think now, you're probably going to have to dumb some things down and run some basic stuff. But the only way the guy's going to get better is by playing. And the Broncos, again, they're still hinging on that. We want to win with our defense still being good and how much money we invested in it. But we got a young quarterback, so we're balancing that and expectations. I think you play him, let him learn, let him go through the growing pains. Do it now. That way we don't have to wait another year. I'd rather play him now. So I'm going to go Justin Fields here. And I think that's a steal for Broncos country. You get a quarterback who, you can at least be excited about, who's a dual threat. Now we'll worry about the nuances of his game later, and if he can be top 5, top 10 quarterback, or if he's just going to be one of those guys that are top half of the league quarterback. we'll wait to see that. But I think you get that type of guy there.
Yeah, you have the 4th best quarterback in the division. You need to move up. It's that simple. If both Justin Fields and Trey Lance is gone, do you take Mac Jones?
No. At least me personally, I wouldn't. I don't think they would either.
At that point, I think you trade down.
Yeah.
And you get more picks and whatever. But yeah, that
because again, the game is transitioning at that position. You have to be somewhat mobile.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be. Quarterbacks that can be dual threats is such a huge thing in this game. Now you can't be on the, extreme side of the spectrum to where you're Lamar Jackson and to where you're completely limited. Now Lamar's gotten a little bit better, but he's still very limited. I mean, we still see mostly in their playoff games, they're losing because teams can key in on the running game and in effect slow that down to an extent. And that doesn't help them. Why would you go after a quarterback that's outdated? I just don't. And Mac Jones might be a good quarterback in this league, but again, I don't think it's any coincidence that we're seeing.
He'll be Kirk Cousins. He'll be Matt Ryan.
Right. I mean, but we're seeing quarterbacks now that are dominating that are somewhat mobile. I mean, all the quarterbacks that are top quarterback, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, granted, he's not a running quarterback, but he's mobile. He can move in the pocket, so you just have to go that way. I wouldn't go Mac Jones, and I don't think they would either. Yeah. At least I hope not. God, if they did, I would cry. I would cry.
With the 10th overall pick, then the Dallas Cowboys. This is another easy one. Just don't know which one. They're gonna go corner. For me, I'm taking J.C. Horn instead of Patrick Surtain. Instead of I know Caleb Farley's having some issues, so I think he's dropping. But I'm gonna go J.C. Horn. A couple people around have said he's the best one-on-one corner. You can put him on an island, he'll be okay. He'll be really good. So I think J.C. Horn is the pick here. Patrick Surtain he's another really good corner, but I think for what Dallas needs and probably what they want, I think J.C. Horn makes a little bit more sense.
All right, there's our top 10. We got 4 quarterbacks going. And you chose one quarterback. I was like, did I choose all the teams that are taking quarterbacks? I chose
Zach Wilson, and that's it.
So yeah, and I think that's how it's going to shake out. I think at least 3 of those quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10. I don't think Denver trades back unless for some reason Justin Fields and Trey Lance are gone.
I'll say this. I think, okay, well, let's play this game. How many quarterbacks are taken in the first round, or not first round, in top 10?
I would say 4.
I'm going to say 5.
You think Mac Jones goes in?
I think what happens.
That trades up.
I think what happens is it goes Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. I think Mac Jones goes 3, and I think either Atlanta or Detroit or both trade out. I think Denver, New England, and Chicago all try and jump in, and 2 of them get a quarterback. So because I think Mac Jones fits with New England. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be shocked if Denver moves up to 7, secures Justin Fields or Trey Lance, and then whoever else is left, whether it's Mac Jones or Justin Fields or Trey Lance, goes to New England. But I think New England gets aggressive for a quarterback. All
right. It's going to be fun. We're only 4 days away. So
we'll see. In the second round, who do you want Denver to at least position-wise look at?
Well, again, I mean, if there's a linebacker, I've seen a lot of people on that guy from, is it Kentucky?
Yeah, Jamin Davis.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Bronco people that I follow that are in depth with this. They really love this guy. So I think middle linebacker has to be a focus. I'm always for bolstering the trenches on either side. It's not sexy, but it's needed. I mean, if the Broncos can find quality depth there, maybe not so much offensive line, because you would think that this is probably the first year that we can point out all of the starting 5, Garrett Bowles, Reisner, Cushenberry, Glasgow, and Juwan James. So maybe you get some depth on the defensive line. I don't know. We'll see there. But I would say middle linebacker definitely has to be a focus. And then running back at some point. Yeah. I mean, you lost Philip Lindsay. You bring in the guy from Minnesota. I don't even know what that guy's name. I forgot his name. But probably look to get a running back. Maybe you can get one of those, those steals. I don't know, maybe if you go second round running back. I mean, I guess if you really love one. But, I mean, maybe third, fourth round. I think that's where I'm going. Quarterback, middle linebacker, running back are the three things I would like to see addressed in this draft.
Yeah, there's a couple linebackers in the second round that you can go and get. I would also consider safety if a guy like Trayvon Morig drops, or if Richie Grant is there. I might look at safety in the second round. Like, let's say Jamin Davis is gone, and maybe there's another linebacker that you like that is gone, and you got an option between Richie Grant and Javon Holland. I would take a safety, but it depends. It depends on who's there. If Travis Etienne is there and he drops, and maybe Davis is gone, then you maybe take a shot at Travis Etienne early in the second round. So in that second round is going to be interesting because there's a lot of players in that area that you do need. You need a linebacker, you need a safety at some point, and you do need a running back. So there's a lot of different, like Travis Etienne, Jermaine Davis, Trayvon Morig, Richie Grant, Javon Holland, even a corner, Asante Samuel Jr. Like, there's a lot of Javonte Williams is another running back that a lot of people like. So you could go that route. Also, I mean, you could always go receiver if Terrence Marshall Jr. is there, Elijah Moore. There's a few receivers too. So it depends on kind of who's there and who drops, and if a really good player is there, even if you don't necessarily need a wide receiver, but someone like Terrace Marshall is there, and Travis Etienne is gone, Jamin Davis is gone, and Marshall is the one that drops, you might have to take Marshall.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think safety is an interesting one because given, Kareem Jackson's only on a 1-year deal, you never know if you'll need a replacement for him next year.
When we've seen Denver in the past go 3 safeties, have a safety come up in the box and play. So
I don't think Will Parks is going to be back. I don't think they've signed him. I think he's kind of been poking around to see what his options are. But one thing that's interesting before we close today, I'm just seeing this on Twitter, the 49ers have reportedly concluded their pre-draft meetings and have decided who they are taking with the number 3 pick, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. So
it's between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. I don't think they like Justin Fields. I think what Shanahan wants is someone who's really good, who's really smart. And I think the two that really stood out in this draft was Mac Jones and Trey Lance. At least on the on the whiteboard, they did really well. Not to say that Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields are dumb. I'm sure they did well too. But the two best reportedly was Mac Jones and Trey Lance. So yeah. I think that's between one of them. I personally, I hope that they take Mac Jones because I want Denver to get Trey Lance. I'll be okay with Justin Fields or Trey Lance, but I really like Trey Lance.
All right. Gets me excited. We have the NFL draft coming up this week.
If San Fran takes Mac Jones, if you're Denver, you better move out. You better move up. You better go get Trey Lance.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. He seems to be kind of like even though he's got like the project label put on him, there seems to be a lot of like really excited buzz around what Trey Lance could be if given the opportunity and put in the right situation. So I would be happy with that. Listen, I would be happy with either Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for. But we're 4 days away from the draft. And then not long after that, I mean, we're a little less than a month removed from the NBA playoffs. Like, granted, it's not what we hoped, but this should be a fun playoffs, I think, for the NBA. Yeah. And especially if Dallas can find a way to creep over the Lakers, there's a potential to where you could get a 3-6 matchup between the Lakers and the Clippers still. So, like, they're avoiding that 4-5, but then they still end up playing the Lakers, and then you have the Nuggets playing Dallas, and then Then we'll see Utah and, play probably. Can I just say, I hate the whole playing thing. I just hate it.
Really? I'm excited to see that.
I think it's so dumb because, like, you spend all year working your tail off to get a 7 seed, and then you're telling me in one game it could be lost when I just. Especially in this type of year, like, what if a guy is out, like, say it's, Memphis or Dallas, right? And they're at 7. And then, Luka gets COVID and he's out because of health and safety. And they lose that game because of that? Like, I just think it's dumb that you play a whole season to get that.
That's a little unfair. But here's the thing. If you get the 7, like, well, let's look at the standings real quick, because I think 7-8 play first. Whoever wins that
7
game
and 8
gets
play.
7.
Yeah, and then 8 plays the winner of 9 and 10.
Right. So if we're looking at the standings right now, 7 is Portland, 8 is Memphis, San Antonio's 9, Golden State is 10. Between 7 and 8, I think Portland wins. I think between 9 and 10, I think Golden State wins. So then it's Golden State versus Memphis. That's a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing either of the two as an 8 seed. I think that's fine. Here's what it does. Is it prevents teams from possibly tanking. Because if they're just good enough to maybe sneak in the playoffs, they might try to.
I mean, does it though? Because even if you get in as an 8 seed, you're unlikely to win anyway.
Sure, but if you have a young team that maybe wants that playoff experience, then maybe, like, if you're Charlotte, you kind of might want to, especially when you get LaMelo Ball back, might want to sneak into the playoffs. If you're Memphis and you just missed it barely last year, you definitely want to get into the playoffs. Golden State, they want to get into the playoffs. Even New Orleans, who's probably out of it now, but I mean, New Orleans, yeah, you want to see Zion in the playoffs. You want to get Zion there, see what he can do. So you want to see John Morant in the playoffs. So I think more teams are maybe, okay, well, we have an opportunity to maybe sneak in if we get hot at the right time. Here's the thing. A few years ago, when Denver was that 9th seed, they missed the playoffs by 1 game. How fun would it have been to possibly see them in the playoffs in that little mini tournament?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, that's effectively what it was, though. They were in a playing game.
Sure, but if they would have, but here's the thing. They lost that game, right? So they were the 9th seed. They would have played whoever was the 10th seed. If you win that game, then you get a second chance at a Minnesota. You want to take that? I would take that.
I mean, sure. If you're on the other side, yeah, it's a great idea. But I just think overall, I just don't think it gives us the best teams in the playoffs. Well,
here's the thing, though: would you rather see Golden State or Memphis in the playoffs?
I'd rather see Golden State.
Well, then there you go.
But if Memphis has played better all year.
Have they really? Because Memphis is 30 Memphis is 30 and 28, and Golden State's 30 and 30. Is it really that big of a difference?
They've lost 2 less games, so yes. They've also played 2 less games, but still, beside the point. I'm just saying.
The better team should win anyways, right?
Oh, yes, theoretically, yeah. But again, in this type of year, anything can happen. If Steph Curry, has Chinese takeout the other night, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Curry, the guy that delivered your sesame chicken last night, has COVID, so now Steph has to miss the game." I'm just saying. I just don't like it. I think if you earn what you earn, okay? If you play well enough to get an 8 seed, you shouldn't have to risk it because of 1 game.
I think when we get to it and we watch the games, you're gonna like it.
I don't think so. I think I'm gonna hate it.
No, I guarantee.
I'm closing my mind, so there's nothing. I'm closing that door, so I will not be changed. There's no open mind to that. Door's closed.
Well, you changed your mind with the Broncos and taking quarterback.
It's true, bibbity blah bibbity. That's because my mind was open to it. I was willing to have change.
No, you were not. You were not willing.
Now, now I'm not willing to have it changed.
I guarantee you, after the playing games, you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna be like, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Now I'm going to make myself hate it. Now I'm going to do everything to loathe and despise it.
Like Zach Wilson?
I just don't get it. It's just yeah. Makes a couple nice throws. Whoopee.
Right.
It's like Drew Lock. One thing I want to say before closing, because you mentioned that Matt Ryan is a good player. So I think Matt Ryan is like the Chris Middleton of quarterbacks, and like a guy like Matt Stafford, he's like the Paul George. You know, it's like, do you want Heinz ketchup or Hoon's catsup? You know, almost the same thing. They look similar, but one's better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. They're the same.
So that's all I'm saying. All right, that's gonna do it for us today. We had a fun time. I can't wait to make a T-shirt that says Nikola Jokic is the single mother of the NBA. Yeah, it's been fun. Today's been great. All right, for Brandon Stowe on the other side, I'm Stephen Priest Jr. It's been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.